This week, racing and cheating under lockdown. Are the next generation of games consoles under threat? And face masks, but not as you know them. Hey there, hope you're doing okay. Lara is, Lara looks absolutely fine. Lara, you've taken to wearing shades indoors. Should I be worried?
Don't worry, there is a good reason for this, which I'm going to explain in a moment.
Right.
I have been on a mission to find the best wireless sound. So I started off with some true wireless earbuds. First up, these from Jabra, which are meant to be great for active use. But I found as soon as I started running, they just fall out my ears. Great sound, but not so much use when it's on the floor. Then I tried these by Edifier, a third of the price, and they are lighter. So they did fall out a little bit less, but the battery life was so fantastic that I was almost forgiving of that, as long as they didn't fall down a drain, because that would obviously be a problem. But with all of them falling out my ears, maybe I actually have something strange going on with my ears. Do you think funny ears is a thing?
It is a thing, actually. I have been told many times I've got tiny ear canals. So I have a real problem with in-ear headphones. Whenever I wear them, they just keep self-ejecting. So it's a thing, trust me.
Okay, so that's 100% of us with the problem. So I think these are the solution. The Bose frames play sound out of small speakers and they've got a microphone in them. So you're all sorted. The only thing is they're not the most flattering sunglasses, but they are pretty good for running.
Well, they look fine. They look absolutely fine. Talking about running and sport in general, of course, we're seeing the return of some sport now behind closed doors. One sport that is still officially off at the moment, though, is motor racing, although they have found a really interesting way to kind of keep going. Now, Omar Metab has been for a drive, but he's also discovered that with new tech comes new opportunities for cheating.
With esports more popular than ever, we are seeing that the raw emotion, big money, and intense competition that make real-life sports so compelling are also at its core. But, just like in any regular sport, cheating is an inevitability.
I'm questioning if it was really Daniel in the car.
Ich hoffe, ihr könnt mir verzeihen.
Like many sports, Formula E, the all-electric racing series, decided to suspend all of their races after the pandemic hit.
But whilst the season was postponed, drivers were still raring to go. And so Formula E decided to continue in spite of the pandemic, virtually.
So it's real-life professional drivers would enter the gaming world to race against each other in an esports competition, the Race at Home Challenge.
All drivers compete from their own homes using a gaming simulator called R-Factor 2. But this setup takes things further than using a normal gaming controller.
Oliver Rowland is a Formula E driver for Nissan and has installed this huge rig in his home. It includes a professional steering wheel, pedals, and a seat that reacts to the simulation. But could this ever match up to the feeling of a real race car?
I've been spending probably 6-7 hours on the simulator a day, so you get pretty tired. You tend to get worse towards the end of days. I think the general feelings, the graphics, the tracks, everything's actually very close. Of course, you don't get the cues of the feeling of the car, so you rely more on visual things, which takes you a bit more getting used to, but I think I'm actually extremely impressed with what we've been sent.
But it's not just the professional racers who get to take part. On the weekend, there is a separate race just for gamers, and the winner gets to drive around a track in a real-life Formula E Gen 2 car.
Now, if you want to take part in the race on the weekend, you first have to set a really, really good lap time in order to qualify. So I'm going to give it a go. And they've sent me one of these to try it in.
It's very easy to lose control, or even have the wheel whack on your knuckles if you lose your grip.
It's not moving properly. I broke the... How did I break a fake car?
But after several tries, I set a pretty decent time. Or so I thought. I came dead last. Which isn't surprising, as these gamers are the real deal. They spend hour after hour training and intensely studying the mechanics, not only of the car, but the game itself too. But the Race at Home challenge didn't generate the positive feeling Formula E and its sponsors would have hoped for. And it may be remembered for all the wrong reasons.
Recently, Audi Sports real-life Formula E driver Daniel Abt was found to have cheated during a race. In fact, he didn't race at all. Managing to obscure his face on the video feed, it was actually pro gamer Lorenz Herzing who was behind the wheel.
Other drivers immediately voiced their suspicions after Abt, not true to form, had done well.
To be honest, I'm questioning if it was really Daniel in the car.
Formula E launched an investigation and by cross-referencing IP addresses, found that Abt was not behind the wheel.
Audi took no time in sacking Abt, who was also disqualified in that race by Formula E. And the gamer, Herzing, banned from ever entering a Formula E event again. But why did they do it?
Kam aus einer Unterhaltung die Idee, dass es doch eine lustige Aktion sein könnte, wenn ein Simracer quasi für mich fährt, den anderen realen Fahrern vielleicht auch ein bisschen zeigt, was er drauf hat und die Chance hat, gegen die zu fahren. Und wir das Ganze wiederum dokumentieren und daraus eine lustige Story für die Fans kreieren.
Jetzt mal ernsthaft? Willst du das Rennen für mich fahren, Alter? Ohne Scheiß. Lass uns das mal wirklich überlegen. Das wäre sauwitzig.
So from this, it's clear that Abt didn't take the esports race as seriously as a real-life one. Now, we reached out to Formula E, who declined to make a statement on Abt's cheating or how they'll address their strategy to prevent it again in the future. But just think about this a second. Cheating or not, a gamer just came third in a race with highly trained professional drivers.
People are kind of starting to understand that there is a big difference between a casual gamer and a professional sim racer.
The speed that these guys managed to extract from the cars over a lap just shows how dedicated they are to the sport. That's bound to have some kind of transferable skill set in the real world.
So could this be a new way of identifying talent?
I guess a typical motorsport person might say, well, can they do it if you put them in the car? And that's what we're going to put to test with this initiative, right? I think at the end, we have that prize. Perhaps we can provide a pathway into a real motorsport career.
That was really interesting, and the thing that I loved was that the driver was just wearing socks, like many of us working from home.
Yeah.
This is the truth.
It's all about the socks. So we know how big the video games industry is these days. It's bigger than Hollywood. And in fact, June is usually the time of the annual video games extravaganza E3 in LA. Microsoft and Sony had big plans for 2020. They were going to launch the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 respectively. 2020, of course, had other plans.
Yes, E3 has been cancelled because of the pandemic, and of course there have been protests across America following the death of George Floyd in police custody. There was supposed to be a PS5 launch event this week, but Sony has decided to postpone it, saying now is not a time for celebration.
We think the consoles will still launch this year, and Microsoft has already revealed quite a bit about its Xbox Series X. And so Mark Chislak caught up with the head of Xbox to find out how the coronavirus is likely to affect an industry which has helped many through the isolation of lockdown.
Millions of people across the globe have performed a similar procedure during lockdown. Sometimes it's to entertain themselves, or be transported outside of their homes, chat with friends and family, or plain old pass the time. These are all things that Xbox head honcho Phil Spencer has been closely monitoring, especially during lockdown.
And I know, not everybody plays games. Over half the connected world does play video games, though, over nearly 2.6 billion people. And the fact that people can use games as a way to kind of continue to stimulate, continue to find new stories, new creators, and new friends and people to go play with, I think is just a great thing about our community.
You have a new console coming out this year. How has the COVID-19 pandemic affected plans for the launch of the Xbox Series X?
Early on, as we were starting to deal with work from home, a lot of questions about what was going to happen with supply chain, testing our hardware, first and foremost, the safety and security of our team. But when I look at the hardware production now, I feel really good. We have test kits at home. We're all using them and testing, so we're getting hours on our test kits to ensure that everything's working the way it should. The supply chains in terms of getting the retail builds look like those things will be uninterrupted. So we probably had a couple week miss in our testing cycle just as we got up to speed with things. But I feel like we'll be able to absorb a lot of that in the schedule, and I feel really good about our launch this fall.
A console is never more expensive than when it launches, and with so much economic uncertainty on the horizon, is this a bad time to launch a new machine?
The thing I'm probably focused on the most is just the macroeconomic environment. I mean, we see the impact right now, people getting furloughed, layoffs. I mean, it's just, it's tough. And knowing that in case of gaming, we are a leisure activity. We're not a requirement. We're not food. We're not shelter. If this is not the year where a family wants to make a decision to buy a new Xbox, that's okay. Like our strategy does not revolve around how many Xboxes I sell this year.
It isn't just hardware that's being developed by teams working from home. People creating games are working in this way too. Microsoft-owned studio Mojang, the developers behind the hugely successful Minecraft, were putting the finishing touches to their new game, Minecraft Dungeons, when lockdown restrictions due to the pandemic hit.
Thankfully, we as a team, we're semi-used to working remotely. We sit in Stockholm, and we have our sister studio in Redmond. So we already have this sort of cross-Atlantic communication going on. So we already have a lot of the infrastructure set up to be able to work remotely.
So games are still being developed, and the plan is still for next-generation consoles to arrive at the end of this year.
Hello and welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week staff at Facebook staged a virtual walkout of a video meeting with boss Mark Zuckerberg after civil rights leaders said he was setting a dangerous precedent by allowing a post by Donald Trump to remain on the platform. Teleconference app Zoom saw huge profits between February and April of this year, more than double that for the same period last year due to uptake following the coronavirus pandemic. And even journalists aren't safe from the machine takeover. Microsoft have planned to replace their MSN News curation team with AI from July. Now, we all like a scenic phone wallpaper, but some Android phone users found theirs a little too dramatic. This colourful lake view has been causing some Samsung and Google Pixel phones to crash when set as the wallpaper. It's not sure why just yet, but we don't recommend trying this one at home. What's better or cuter than one retro games console? How about 4? Sega has revealed 4 micro consoles, each colour with a different set of 4 retro games. The tiny 1.15-inch display will come with a magnifying screen, but for now, only for those willing to get a pack of all 4. And finally, how can a robot be helped to find the difference between being strong and soft? MIT's C-Sail team has the answer. They've developed a Venus flytrap-like origami robot hand that can pick up items as much as 100 times its weight, as well as carefully handling more delicate objects.
If I'm stuck at home, I might as well use this time to do something creative. How many of you have thought something like that during this lockdown? Easy to think, not so easy to do, because in practice, inspiration doesn't always flow freely. So here are my top picks for creativity boosters. The Glucksman Museum for Creative Learning is hosting a series of free Creative at Home projects, short challenges like Splash and Doodle that come with a supporting worksheet and aim to help kickstart your imagination. I didn't have any paint to do this Splash and Doodle, so I used a little extra dose of creativity and dug out some dusty old bottles of food colouring. Good Housekeeping magazine has been broadcasting live craft classes twice a week on Facebook Live. All the episodes are there to enjoy still, a great little collection of crafty time fillers you can do with or without any kids. If you're the arty type and already have an idea of what you want to create, Sketchbook is a free and user-friendly drawing and painting app available for any device. There are loads of different pen tips and brush styles, giving you artistic freedom to express yourself. If you're new to digital sketching, the YouTube channel is packed with tutorials to get you moving. Perhaps your creativity is more of the musical kind, in which case, fancy a hand at DJing? Virtually, of course. Host a club night for your friends on Plug DJ. It's free to join, create an avatar and make a playlist from the tunes available on YouTube or SoundCloud. Then invite friends to join and you can hang out together, chatting and taking turns to control the music. Or you can stretch your vocal cords by signing up for the Sofa Singers, which is what I'm doing this weekend. You don't have to be a good singer, no one else is going to hear you, and you don't have to be sat at your sofa. It's just about singing together with others.
Okay, anyway, let's get the clicks going. 1, 2, 3, and...
The moment I wake up. Registrations for the week open on Sunday evening, with limited places on the Zoom calls for that week's sessions. But if you just don't have the emotional energy for creativity right now, don't worry, I've got you covered. Take a stroll through the Upworthy Instagram feed. It's a veritable feast of all the best things we humans are capable of.
That was Kate. And speaking of getting creative, it seems that face masks could be becoming the new must-have fashion accessory. So Chris Fox has been getting right on trend, click style.
I have finished my face mask.
This might be the coolest face mask I've seen. It was created by game developer Tyler Glale, and the lights respond to the sound of your voice. After Tyler posted his code on Twitter, I thought I'd have a go at making this myself, just as a novelty to wear on video calls, and I thought it'd be an easy project. How wrong I was. The components for something like this came to about £40, most of which went on this flexible LED matrix. I also needed a tiny microphone to pick up my voice and a microprocessor to run the code. Tyler's setup used an Arduino Nano. But it took a lot longer than I expected to get it working. Tyler's code was written for very specific components that I didn't have, and I ended up working into the night to fix all the issues. Big thanks to Tyler and everyone else on Twitter who answered my questions to get this to work. Hello! Once I had my mask working, I hopped on a video call with Tyler to talk about the project. So Tyler, first of all, tell me, why did you want to create this?
Because it's cool. I had a random idea for it. I was wondering if it existed, to just have a face mask that would light up with mouth shapes. And so I looked around online to see if there was anything that I could feasibly just buy that would do this. And there really wasn't anything there.
And in terms of practicality, is this something you're actually going to wear out and about?
I'm probably planning on wearing it to the store once. Like, I wore it outside once already, but it's very impractical compared to just a normal surgical mask.
A lot of people have shared pictures of them in their mask. Are you surprised that it went viral?
Yeah, it's cool seeing people make their own versions of it. Some people independently made one of these, some similar to it, before I posted mine that went viral.
Is this the finished product for you? Are you thinking of adding anything else to the mask?
I think it's done at this point. This has already taken me a month of playing around with it to get it to this point. I was trying to make it so that it could have a different mouth for like an E, which is like a higher pitched, or an O, which is like a lower pitched sound, just to like sell the effect a little more. I sort of got it working, but it didn't look good. So I just didn't go with that idea. But that's about it. I'm not planning on selling them, so you're gonna have to make your own.
Tyler has shared his code and a how-to guide on Twitter, although a few words of caution from me. I wouldn't say this is a beginner project, because if you don't have the exact same components as Tyler, his code won't work for you. And the components do run quite hot, so I can't really recommend you strap something like this to your face, and definitely not for children. There are some other designs out there, so it's worth digging around for inspiration. One simple idea is having a clear plastic window in the mask so that people who lip read can see your mouth. If you do decide to customise your mask, just make sure you can still sterilise it. The fabric on this one is machine washable, and the electronics I can slip out and sterilise with ultraviolet UVC. But to be honest, I think I'll probably just keep this one as a novelty.
That was so cool, was it not? That was Chris Fox, and I think I might just wear a mask forever after seeing that. And now we have more flashing lights for you. So throughout the pandemic so far, we have been trying to show our carers that we care, with token applause if nothing else. But recently I met up with a friend of the show who's been going a little bit further. If you were in Brighton over the last few weeks, you might have seen this.
So I thought, wouldn't it be fun to actually set up some of my lasers on the roof terrace and see what I could hit with my laser with them.
And that's how Megalomania starts. Seb Lee Delisle is a professional laserist. And just to say that before he showed his love for the NHS in this way, he did get permission from the police and aviation authorities. And if he looks familiar, well, you might have seen him wowing us at Click Live 2018. He's also created a dance show where the audience control the lasers using their mobile phones, and the dancers improvise moves that follow the beams. And a lot of his work has been putting on laser shows for various cities during festivals. But restrictions on mass gatherings have thrown this year's light festivals into doubt. And that gave Seb his next crazy idea.
And so I thought, well, couldn't I make a lights show that would be fine no matter what level of restrictions? So I put together this idea called Laser Light City. I have to stop thinking of Summer Night City. Although I think I've got my theme tune written already. So it's called Laser Light City, and the idea is that I get the biggest lasers I can get hold of, probably at least 30 watts, and install them on iconic landmarks around the city pointing up into the sky. But the fun part is that I'll give the residents in the city the chance to operate these lasers through their mobile phone. So you go to my website and you can actually just with your finger move these enormous beams around. That's a light show that can work no matter what the restrictions are. You can see it from your window, from your garden, from your pathways.
And in fact, Seb hopes that these kinds of light shows will one day replace a form of entertainment that he thinks has had its day.
Fireworks are sparkly and bright and beautiful, but they're hundreds of years old technology now. They're problematic these days for so many reasons. And I guess the argument to keep them is because we haven't really had anything as bright and brilliant and accessible. But now we don't have that argument because we've got lasers, we've got super bright LEDs.
Lockdown or no lockdown, the Laser Light Show may be coming to a city near you. Although certain bonus lighting effects are not guaranteed.
Love it, and how much do we all need some fun right now? And I do actually agree about the fireworks, I feel the same.
Yeah, it's true, fireworks are not everyone's cup of tea, are they? Anyway, that is it from us for this week.
You can keep up with the team throughout the week on social media, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook and Twitter at BBC Click.
Thank you so much for continuing to watch, and we will see you soon.
Bye-bye.